First time anyone comes on my show, I always like to find out about who their musical influences are. So who from a young age got them into music? For you, who was it who first got you into music and what age?
It was very early because I got introduced with the vinyls by my father. You know, my father is from the French West Indies. Music is very important. We always have music. Music is part of my life since I'm a youngster. We used to listen to French Caribbean music, you know, music from Martinique and Guadeloupe and Haiti, Haitian music. So I'm a big fan of compa and Haitian music. And I got introduced to salsa, African music from especially Congolese music, you know. Also Fresh West Indies, salsa, African music, disco funk. Fela and James Brown was a big part of it too. I used to hate James Brown and Fela when I was a child. I have, it's different now, but it was, I didn't understand the concept of having a song 10 minutes long without almost not without lyrics or saying always the same stuff. I didn't get it at that time, but it's part of my education.
Fantastic. So what sort of age was that then? You say you were very young. How old were you when you first sort of realized music was available?
To me, music is like water. There are some songs that I hear and I realize that I've heard them when I was very, very young because it sounds very familiar, but it touches you here. It's part of your life, but you don't realize that you don't really know the song with your consciously, but emotionally. I've been growing up through music all my life. Perhaps I realized that I had a connection with music. I don't know because when I think about as far as I can go in my memories, there is some music.
Fantastic. Okay. So that is obviously you were listening to your father's collection. When did it come that you started buying records?
Oh, no, no. Alors, you have to understand that in my house, there was the living room and there was a room where it was my father's place. So you had all the records, you had the turntable and some spotlights, and he used to get there that was his place. And when some friends were coming to my house, we had some people coming almost every day, and on my father's friend were bringing records with them because we were living in a small city in France and there was not so many black people, so especially from the West Indies. So to share the culture, music was part of the culture. When they were coming home, they were bringing some records, like 4, 5 records, so I was waiting to discover the records they had under the arms. So they used to go in that place where the children were not allowed, but I had a pass. So I could get there. So they were drinking some rum and listening to the records. And sometimes where everybody was gone, I was staying with my father, who was falling asleep, and I didn't have the right to touch, but I could play the records by myself till my mother were coming and say, "Hey, what are you doing here? You have school tomorrow." But I had the pass. So I felt in love with the vinyls, the music and the vinyls. I was studying the sleeves and all the names and everything, the labels and everything. So I remember I was like, when I started to play the records, I had the right to touch the vinyl, the right. When I took the right to do it, I was around 10. And I started to buy records when around 12 years old. I started my first record I had that they offered me a record. It was a friend of my father. It was George McCrae, the album with Rock Your Baby. And I hated that song. I hated that song. And later on, I discovered that the sample of I Get Lifted was on that album. So I changed my mind. But I hated that song. That was my first record. That was my record. And the first record I bought was Grandmaster Flash. And the album with where you have the Grandmaster Flash of the Wheels of Steel. And that's when I discovered scratching. I was like 13 or 14 years old, something like that. And it changed my life completely.
So that is from the album. Now, had you seen any video of Grandmaster Flash doing this before, or was it literally just from listening to that record?
No, no, no. I heard the scratching. I've never seen it before. I felt in love with rap music. It was a documentary about graffiti. And my father called me. I was in my bedroom. And my father said, "Oh, Freddy, come and check this out." And there were two clips to talk about graffiti. The first clip was Tom Tom Club Genius of Love and the video. And the second clip was The Message by Grandmaster Flash. And I realized when I heard these guys talking and not singing on the music, there was something different. And I love the arrogance of it because, the videos that I used to see, we were in France, so folk music and black music was not that popular. So I used to see except of music, Otis Redding on stage, sometimes James Brown, but they were very polite. What I love with Grandmaster Flash, the video, of course, the beat, the fact that they were talking on the music, and the arrogance that they have. They were like some punk black people. And when I bought the record, I just felt in love with the message, the track, the song. I was crazy about that track. And when I bought the record and I heard that track, The Adventures of Grandmaster Flash on the Wheels of Steel, I said, what is that noise? What is that? I didn't get it first. And it changed my life. That's how I became a DJ because I started scratching the turntable of my mother because they divorced. So when I was going to at my mother's house, I had more freedom than at my father's house. I couldn't test scratching on my father's house. It would have killed me. But at my mother's house, I had more freedom. So I started to try to, what is that sound? And try to reproduce that sound that I used to hear on that record.
And you obviously worked it out then. So did you use the vinyl and then manage to work out that that is how scratching works?
When I started, I was just making baby scratching. Yeah, I was around 14, 15. Very quickly, I was very passionate with music. So most of the people I had around me were a little bit older than me and they were fan of music too. So I was introduced. They used to know me in the record shop in my town because I was the youngster. And I was very open-minded about music because, of course, I love black music. So I was going to the digging funk, and I was also digging African music and West Indies music and reggae music because most of the people in France, they were just digging mostly one genre of music. And I was very open, and I was the first one to ask for rap music because rap music, I was not in Paris at that time. It was a small town, so rap music was very, very special for them. So it was very difficult to get them. I had to import the record and all that.
Were you importing it from the US or from other parts of France?
I was talking to the manager of the record shop, and there was some import from the US, from UK too. There was a label called Hard as Air Records. I think no, it's not Hard as Air. This is the compilations. I will tell you the name. It's a guy called Simon. You know that guy for sure. I will check the records. I have them, and mostly from the US. So I remember that uh, uh, Boogie Down Production. The first album was an import. DJ Jazzy Jeff and the Fresh Prince is the DJ and the rapper. And of course the compilation Mr. Magic's Rap Attack. I remember this one. They were a little bit more expensive, but I was a big fan of it. Yes.
And so how did you hear about this music? Obviously, you've asked record shop owner to import this. Were you reading magazines? Were you
Oh,
just linking? How were you hearing about the music?
this is a crazy story. So I'm telling you, I discovered Grandmaster Flash. I was around 12, 13 years old. I bought that record, The Adventures of Grandmaster Flash and the Ways of Steel, and I had the feeling that there is something special. I feel that there is a movement, but I don't know the name. 1 year later, there's a program in France, a show that was a guy from the radio called Sydney, and he made a show on TV called Hip Hop. It lasts only one season, but it changed the life of a lot of French people here. That was the first time we had a show with a black man presenting the show, and it was about hip hop. So we had break dancers. He invited all the pioneers of hip hop at the time, Grandmaster DST, Africa Mombada. Everybody was coming, and the New York City Breakers. So we had a crew called Paris City Breakers. It was crazy. It was in 1984, and I made the connection. They called it Smurf and hip hop. All these guys that I used to follow making rap were here, and I realized that was a movement that lasted only 1 year. After 1 year, it was over. No more rap on the radio, no more rap on TV. And I said, man, it can't be only that. It's got to be bigger. So I started to search on the short waves. I thought with the short wave, because I used to hear some foreign languages on on the short waves. So I said, probably I could have some radios from New York. I was a child, I was a teenager. So I started to search during the night, and I felt on the radio, and I thought it was New York because they were speaking English. The guy had no accent, so I was recording because I spent my life making tapes. I had my tapes in the ghetto blaster waiting for the song that I like. So this is how I made my musical culture. And then, you had that the sound of snow like that. But I could hear the first track that I heard. It was 11 p.m. and I heard that track that was Roxanne, Roxanne from UTFO. And I was like crazy. The second song that I heard was Doggy Fresh, the show. And the third song that I heard, I didn't know the name at that time. It was a 7-Eleven called Rockstar. And I got crazy. And I started recording. It was like every Friday and every Saturday. And I called it New York, And I took the tape to the school and said, listen, this is crazy. They made a song with Inspector Gadget. And we didn't hear that in France. And I did not sleep. I was recording it. And later, very later on, I realized that that was a radio in England, Capital Radio by Mike Allen. I was going to the shop recording the track and say, oh, do you have that record and everything and everything? And that's how I learned English, by the way. And I was understanding some few words. So sometimes I could find some records. And I knew that Grandmaster Flash, you had Sugar Ray Records. And I knew because I was a big fan of LL Cool J. So I was buying everything from Sugar Hill and Def Jam Records.
Amazing, amazing. Let's just pause for a second. Let's say a few hellos. I think you've said a few hellos to Nadia already. ADP, Agatha Blues, Double P, Mark Lancaster, who says that he used to listen to Mike Allen on Capital when he was a teenager. So maybe you guys were listening to the same shows across the channel. Incredible.
When the weather was bad, I did not have music anymore. It was I could have moved 1 millimeter if I moved the button. No more radio. That was crazy. But you know what? I still have the tapes.
You've still got the tapes from then?
All my tapes from that day. I have probably here 500 tapes, probably, perhaps more.
Wow. From all those shows.
Not only Capital Radio. When I was a teenager, sat on the couch waiting for songs. I was making tapes. And then when I got money, I bought the records of the tape that I had. So, and sometimes I didn't have the names. I was waiting for the names. I was searching, I've been an inspector, a detective, to find the name of the records that I used to record on the radio.
And so you would take your tape into the record shop and say, I want this song. And then between you would have to try and work out what the song was. They would have to.
You remember?
Yeah. They'd have to order it and then they'd have to bring it in.
You have that thing called Walkman. You remember that?
Yeah.
And I put the headphone. and man, I was just crazy. It's good memories, I was passionate. I was a kid, and they understood that. And I didn't have a lot of money, so when I have a few money, when I saw a record that I love, I said, please, put it in a place for me. I'll come back in 1 month or two. And they were pretty nice. And sometimes they used to sell the record, because when they ordered the records, there was only 1, 2, perhaps 3, but not a lot, because they didn't buy rap records where I was. So I was one of the only ones to buy them.
From that sort of early record buying, when did you come to get into DJing and start playing music out?
As a kid, my connection with music is mostly black music. I didn't really like rock and all that. And French music. I was reading the beats, the grooves. So funk music, mostly funk and disco, and then a bit of rap. We were making parties as kids. We were calling that boom. There's a name for English, parties for teenagers, And we used to go out of 45. Remember that? So everybody was playing these 45s. But the problem is that you have the heavy metal ones. When they were playing heavy metal, they were not playing something else. The girls were bringing their stuff. When they were playing the records, they were not playing something else. We had the Rastas playing their stuff and everything. So nobody was sharing. As I was the only one to love rap music, so I said, I'm going to be clever. I'm going to play for everybody, and I mix my stuff in it. So everybody was loving me because I was the only one behind no one with me because when the heavy metal ones were behind the desk, they didn't want to leave. Same thing for the girls. So me, I was like the one who was paying for everybody because that was the only way to play my stuff because nobody liked my stuff. This is how I started.
So you were being eclectic even from the very beginning because you saw that that could please a lot of people.
I had to. That was a tactic to be able to play my music because nobody would have played my music.
So
You
nobody
know,
would have booked you to just play rap music or black music at that time. So you had to sort of use these different genres to introduce people to your music.
they hated rap music. The thing is that we were a few to like funk, but I wanted to go deeper. And when you know what I'm talking about, Criztoz and all the DJs connected. When you love music, you want to have the control.
Yeah.
Or you're very, very sad, very frustrated. You don't want to let somebody control the music if you're not sure they're going to play something that you like because when you love music is the most important thing. You can have beautiful girls, good alcohol, good food, but if the music is bad, the party is going to be a mess. It's going to be bad. So, and I was a dancer. We were dancers. I was dancing. So I had to control the music.
I assume that worked. I assume people were into the fact that you were playing music for everyone.
I consider myself more than a mixer than a DJ because the fact that I want to be fluid in my mix was the tactic. I don't want them to realize that I'm changing the song. So I was able, and this is still my technique, to play some stuff that nobody knows because I was mixing them between two records that the people know. It's like a trap. I'm trapping them in my world. My technique as a professional is to bring the people in my world. I start to play like mainstream stuff because this is how it is. I create an energy, and in that energy, I bring some stuff different. And that's why people appreciate me because I'm not only playing what they know. I try to put some different stuff, and they love the way that I love to mix different genres together. I've been making mashups before the word mashups because that was the only way for me to play some stuff that I like and that nobody would like if I did not try to mix it with something else.
It's a good tactic. Give them something they know so that their ears are interested and then take them in a different direction and play what you want. Yeah, perfect. Okay, so from those sort of early parties from a young age, how did that progress? Did you then start getting sort of bigger gigs and sort of move on to doing a lot more DJing?
When I got my degree, I didn't have no money. I didn't have no job. I decided to organize my own parties to make a little bit of money because I knew that I didn't have so many skills. And at that time, as a black man, to get to be a bartender as a student was very complicated. So I decided to borrow some money to rent a place to organize a party. And as I had a good reputation, I didn't want to be a DJ first. I wanted to rap. So and make music. So I needed to buy a big box. So to buy my drum machine, I needed money. So I started to organize parties, and invent some concepts to make people come. But as I was mostly the only one in my town playing that kind of music, funk and hip hop, people were following me. So when I borrowed the money, I was almost sure that I would make the money back because the rental of the place was not that expensive. And I knew that I would have the money back and have a little bit more money for me. So that's how I started to DJ. But I did not DJ. I did not see that as a job. It was an easy way for me to get some money and to stay honest because at that time, we had to I grew in a neighborhood where people were making easy money. It was, you know what it is. We were in the blocks, so I didn't want to get into that. My brother was into that. I didn't want to get into that. I thought that I could make something in music, so I did it like that. I made easy money. I bought my first drum machine like that, and after that, I made another party to buy a bass guitar, and then I bought a bigger drum machine, and that's how I got into music. When I got my degree, I needed money because I was like 13 years old and I could not go out because I had no money. I was living with my mother. She was not making a lot of money. So I was giving some English and French lessons to a child, but I was making $50 a week. It was not enough, so I said I leave the university and I found a way to get a job in a club as a DJ.
And you've talked about drum machines and obviously wanting to get into music and that. So, what was your first drum machine, and then what was the second one you bought that you said?
The first one, oh man, you asked me. I remember it was a Roland. That's sure. No. It was Roland or Korg. I mean, it was a small one. And the beat, you could make the beat of the first LL Cool J's first album, the I Need a Beat. That beat,
Okay, yeah.
that fat beat and that fat snare. I loved it, man. It was my first one, and the other one was a Roland one. I still got it. It's RX5, I think the references. This is the drum machine that MC Hammer used for his first album. He made the whole album with that drum machine. That's why I hate the album, by the way, because it's so you don't have so many noise, so many sounds. So I was making all my stuff with that because I was limited. So when I heard MC Hammer's first album, I loved the track of the videos. And when I heard the album, I said, damn, I hate it. It sounds like me. You know what I'm saying? So, and then when the sampler arrived, it changed everything. But I wish I would have been able. But the thing is that I've learned everything by myself. I learned the keys, I learned the guitar, I learned to play the drums. And when you love music so much, you want to make your own music.
And you were making rap music at the beginning, so you're making beats, and were you rapping over your own beats?
Definitely. I was rapping on my beats, and I had two tape recorder, so I could scratch, I could put the beat in, and I was making like how do you say different tracks playing. The sound was horrible, but I could imagine some creations. And then when I get my first sampler, I could take some ideas. But I needed that. And yeah, I was rapping. And my first rap was not on one of my beats, and I still have the record, by the way. My first rap was on Pass the Piece, the 45s. I had the 45s of Pass the Piece, and I wrote a rap on that track. And that was my first, my first shows. I was bringing my 45, taran, 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 taran. And I was the name of the track was called Savoir Faire, and that was my first French rap. And I had never heard French rap before me, and it came after. But my first rap in French, I did it without having heard anybody rap in French before.
Amazing. So you just had heard, obviously, the concept of rapping, and you decided to use that in your own language. But that was before, because obviously French hip hop is quite a big thing now, isn't it? And it always was. But this was before you'd heard anything like that. You were just, I'm going to rap in my own language.
Definitely. I was not speaking that English before. I had no choice. And to me, it was natural, and I thought that was cool because yeah, I think it was cool to rap in my language, and I wanted to I wanted to be a part of it. I was a big fan of Big Daddy Kane and Rakim. That was my idols at that time. I was a big fan. So I remember it was 87, 88. My father was a big fan of James Brown. I make the connection with the samples, with all that music that I used to hate. And the music that I love now. And I had that record from James Brown, so that it was easy for me to say, oh, I'm going to make what they're doing. They're just rapping on James Brown's beat. I got a JB's record. It's an instrumental. I'm going to try on it. It was pretty cool.
Comment from DJ Funklaw, who said hello a little bit earlier. He said that some of his first introduction to French rap, and I think this is probably for a lot of us, was the La Haine soundtrack. And I think that is quite a famous soundtrack that a lot of us probably heard French. Now, was it as big a deal for you in France, that soundtrack and that album and that film?
It was a shift here in France because I think this is the first movie in France talking about this hip hop culture, because France is a very complicated country. It's like they want to ignore the fact that they have some people coming from other countries, from the colonies, and they ignore black people. Now it's getting very racist, for example, because we're getting louder because they can't ignore us anymore. But when you get in the 80s, if you watch some French movies about war or whatever, you never see black people. Or if you see black people, it's gonna be acting black. It won't be a doctor, it won't be a policeman. And when when La Haine arrived, it was the first time there was a point of view coming from the the blocks from the ghettos of France. It was the first time. Rap was getting popular. The record companies were making new money. But the thing is that most of the group, we had already some people like MC Solar, La Kika, IM, NTM. They were quite popular here already. It was they were making big numbers without radio. So when they made that movie where the soundtrack would be rap, everybody was waiting. It was a big deal here. It was incredible. And the soundtrack is a very good, by the way, very good quality. And what the thing is that rap music, like every kind of genre, they want to try to make something commercial to make more money, more money. The thing with La N, no compromise. That was real French rap. And that was the first, I think the first soundtrack with that kind of quality. We had another one called Ma Cité va craquer, made by a guy called Jean-François Richer, who was French and he went to Hollywood then. And it was about like revolution in the neighborhoods, in the ghettos, they killed the young guys and it's not very original, but the soundtrack was just incredible. And that's how we realized that we had incredible French producers here.
And so that album made quite a difference. Did you notice a change? And was there more French hip hop around after that album came out?
To tell you the truth, I had a radio program. I started my radio program, my first radio program. I joined a guy. He was a fan of rock and roll, but he used to love hip hop. What was strange is that when hip hop shifted into something more, a little bit more raw. The first hip hop tracks, Sugar Hill and all that, it was like funk and disco with people rapping on this. But when Dave James arrived and it was a little bit more raw, most the beats, the scratching and the voice only, most of the people liking the funk and the disco, they didn't like it. I used to like it. And so I started to connect with some people coming from rock. They loved that energy. LL Cool J, Beastie Boys, of course, Run DMC. So I made a partnership with a guy who had a rock program, and I started to make it with him. And we had a hip hop program. I think I was 19 or 20. Later on, I went on a big radio in my city and I made the first hip hop only radio program. So I was buying everything. I had a few records already before hip hop became mainstream. And when it became mainstream, it became really, really big. So first I was playing like the big labels. And when it became mainstream, we had a radio called Skyrock, who became the hip hop radio. That's when I got into the underground. So I left all the big labels and I started to buy all the underground labels like Stone Throw, 75 Arc. And I was not playing mainstream hip hop anymore on my radios. And I got more rock people coming from rock. More people coming from rock than black people or Arabs people. More people coming from rock or dancers, black and Arabs that I had following me. They were rappers, beat makers, dancers. I had a mix because the rock audience was a bit fed up of what was going on, and they was very attracted by what was going on in rap music. But I had a radio program. It started in 1992. I've left my town, but it's still going on because someone is replacing me now. So it's still going on now.
Now, one of the artists I want to ask you about, because you played some Public Enemy just now before the stream sort of raided over. Now, a lot of my guests talk about Public Enemy and what an impact that artist had on them. So, well, what about you? How did Public Enemy affect you and your sort of journey?
You know what I told you? I was in a little town, not a lot of black people. Very difficult to be connected to my history because we don't learn our history here. I saw a comment once on Instagram about a guy in the UK. I think it was the guy from Hijack. He said thank you to PE because he said he made me realize that I had a history and he made me dig in my history. And I didn't think that it was the same in the UK. So me being from France in the little town, we don't have no examples, no black actors at the time, no black singers. Or if we had black singers, they were clowns. That's why I was connected with the energy of Grandmaster Flash about that pride. And when Public Enemy arrived, it was different. The energy musically was different. So I said, damn, it's like Wu-Tang later. It was different. And I love the fact that they were like so proud and talking about stuff that nobody was talking about without begging for respect and equality. They were not begging, they were taking it. And for me as a youngster, That was very important. I became educated because of Public Enemy. I knew some names, Kwame Nkrumah, Marcus Garvey, Franz Fanon, and all the guy, I had a journey to dig the story of my ancestors, of my intellectuals, of the people fighting for my rights. The first door was Public Enemy, and I got into some more serious stuff. I had to dig about this. But the first thing is that Public Enemy made us proud, first as Black people, because it was the first time one group was daring to be. Do you realize at that time? Perhaps you don't know in the UK, but the first show of Public Enemy, it was like a red alert in France. All the policemen from France were ready. They thought there would be a riot. Thought they were racist. They thought it would be like a black riot because it was different. No Black people were acting like that. They were not asking for permission. And they were saying, why do you want to have a fear of a Black planet? We're clear about that. You're 10% of the population and you want to own 90% of the share the power. It was very important for me as a Black man to realize that I don't have to excuse myself for being Black, and this changed your life completely.
I was just saying it's amazing to hear your perspective of Public Enemy and the impact they had in France, because obviously that's a similar but different impact they had in the UK, and again a similar but different impact they had in the USA. So it's amazing to have all of that. Now let's sort of move it on a little bit from there. So because we've still got a lot to talk about before we before we even get to sort of Twitch, but this is a mental health show, and obviously I assume prior to the pandemic you were sort of gigging and doing radio shows and doing all sorts of things like that. So what were you doing before the sort of pandemic sort of kicked in?
I was not streaming. Sometimes on YouTube, really an amateur, no sound card, nothing. I was doing it sometimes. I started the first day of the pandemic, by the way. I was streaming with my daughter every day, and she was on the keys, and I was on the turntables, and I made one show because when the president made the announcement that everything was closed, I was ready to go for a gig. I was waiting for the answer. So I was ready, I was just prepared to go and play. And when they said, no, it's over, everything's closed now, I said, damn, I was in the energy to play. So I said, I'm going to play in my kitchen. I'm going to put the phone in and I'm going to play for the people. Everybody's inside. So this is different. So we made it with my daughter. And the next day I had so many messages because people was like, they were not living that good, and they say, man, this helps a lot. Please don't stop. And we didn't stop for 6 days, every day.
That must have been good bond, because I recently saw the show that you did with your daughter when she came back to visit. Was that a good way of bonding with your daughter and family over music?
Definitely. That was a family affair. We were three in the house because you get to realize that we just make it like that. I said, man, I'm going to play. I can't go play outside. I'm going to play here. So I was in the kitchen. I don't have a big house, but because it's pretty big, but now I'm downstairs. I made it easier to make the streams. But before it was in the kitchen, in the middle of the house. So every day at 6, we were preparing for 1 hour the place, put the tables, put the turntables, prepare everything. Started at 7. Usually it was 1 hour, sometimes a little bit more. At the end, 1 hour to put everything in the place. So for 3 hours, we were involved in the show. Didi, the mother of my daughter I'm living with, she was like showing me, it was only on Facebook, the names, so I could salute everybody because it's important people to be to hear their names and feel like they're part of the show. And my daughter was preparing a theme every day on keys. So, for example, she would play like, I don't know, Imagine of John Lennon. We would try something, put a beat on it, and every day there was a different. So she was taking the time to prepare for 1 or 2 hours a theme, so she could play with me. She had her part in the show. It was like a real show.
Did that start on Facebook before Twitch or Instagram? Where did you start?
We started on Facebook.
How did you first discover Twitch?
In France, we had 2 months of pandemic here in France, right? Facebook was pretty cool about the censorship, and they were pretty cool. And the thing is that I was playing mostly underground music. I was not trained to play mainstream music. It was the first time for me to be connected with an audience without having a manager or promoter telling me you can play this, you can play that. It was the first time I could be myself. So I was playing mostly hip-hop music, but not only that, West Indian music, soul, funk, drum and bass, jungle, house. because I was not really allowed to do it here because most of the time here, when you have a gig, you have to stay in the line most of the time, you know. So it was the first time I could introduce myself musically to an audience. So I really loved it. After the pandemic, Facebook started to strike me, you know, and I love freedom. So I didn't get it. And sometimes I was playing remixes and they were striking me because I was playing some remixes from major labels because I was not used to that because I was playing a lot of underground labels, but major labels, I had big strikes. And a lot of friends say, man, you should try Twitch, man. Twitch is cool. There's a lot of DJ going on Twitch and they help me and say, man, they insist for me to go on Twitch. And I was fed up to be stricken, you know. I said, let's try it and I prepared my audience to go on stage, and it was very frustrating at first because I had a good community on Facebook. Not everybody was ready to download the app to come on Twitch and to be part of the Amazon family. You know what I'm saying? So some people followed, and afterwards they left, and now I'm getting an audience back. But the thing is that you can realize that there's not so many French people on Twitch, by the way.
Yeah, it's interesting. We have this conversation about how many UK people there are on Twitch, and there probably is more than French people. But equally in Australia, there's not a lot of Australian people watching. It seems to be very obviously US based, maybe a little bit Europe and all the rest of it. But so, do you find that a lot of your viewers are not from France?
The majority of my viewers, yes, I think they're not from France. Now, because I've been talking about it on my social media, you know, I try to promote my shows and I say, let's be proud a little bit. Because I have a lot of followers, you know, on my networks, on my social networks, but it's not really following my views on Twitch. You know, some people discovering Twitch, but they are very, very shy about it. When you see my audience, the people following me on the Instagram, and they're not really following me on Twitch. And now I have more French people still this year. That's why most of my show I'm speaking English. You know, most of my audience is not French.
But it must be frustrating in a way because you want to represent France and the French language as well. But obviously, because the audience is not there, it's difficult. I know that some of the German DJs will speak like a little bit of German and then a bit of English and all the rest of it. But I think there's more German speaking viewers than there are probably French speaking viewers.
By the way, I have a lot of German viewers. I think there's a lot of German streamers, German viewers, but you know, yeah, it's a little bit frustrating. It's true. I thought about leaving, you know, because I remember I had like twice or I had gigs in the Saturday. I didn't sleep. To me, it's very important. See, if I want to have my audience, I can be there one day and not be there the other day. So very difficult for me to wake up. I'm dead, you know. I've been playing on Friday night, Saturday night, didn't sleep. And I'd say, oh, it's 9. Because first I used to start at 9. I changed the time for 9:30 because the 30 minutes for me, it's gold. Get at 9 o'clock, start to play, and I'm playing for 9 people, 10 people. I top at 15 people once, twice. And the thing is that I'm a humble person, but I know my value as a DJ. I know what the quality of what I want to propose. And I see some girls dressed like hoes. Sorry, but I'm gonna be frank, playing some horrible music with 300 people, you know, and I'm trying to give some quality music to the people. I know I got skills and I'm topping at 15 and I didn't sleep. So I said, man, I can do that all the time. I think I'm going to quit. You know, I thought about it. It's my 50 on Twitch right now, but I really thought about it and I talked about it. I said, man, I'm going to thank you for all these people who never left, these 15 people who never left, giving me some strength, following me. But now I'm thinking about quitting because I started on Twitch with 50 people. I topped at 70, and now I don't sleep, and there's only 15 people or 10 people or 9 people. You know what it is when you put your energy in something. The problem is that if I start at 10 and I top at 30 or 50, it's cool. But when you start at 50, and 3 years later, you have 10 people. Man, you say, man, I don't understand. And you're, it's not only frustration, you're vexed. You know, this is vexation. You feel like it's like an humiliation. You don't, and I don't understand because I realize that when I see these girls, I don't want to judge them, but I love music. I know they're not there for the music, you know. the way they're dressed and the music they're playing. They try to be sexy and all that. And I see that the other day, I seen the girl, she had like 800 people. The music was pretty cool, but the vibe was strange. And I know that people were not there for the music because I saw great DJs on Twitch. They don't have that population. And this is the thing that I realized that music, I love Twitch. I really love Twitch. But music is really a niche. And when you are like someone like you, someone like so many guys that I see, I don't understand. I don't get it because if you're here for the music, the numbers are not good.
What we do is still quite niche, isn't it, compared to the sort of mainstream people? So it's difficult to get into that mainstream, and that's why some of these artists are being more successful with numbers because they're playing to the mainstream rather than playing to music lovers, which is what we play to music lovers, don't we?
I know, but I think the numbers are not good. I'm sorry, but if you love music, when you're talking about artists, I feel you. You have some artists on Twitch. But I'm not even talking about artists right now. I've seen someone, a girl, again, I have nothing to do against girls, but you know, I'm a feminist. So I want to see more real female DJs on Twitch, not girls acting like hoes to get views. I've seen a girl, she was not even mixing, and she had like 800 people. And I was like feeling really weird about her because if I was a girl, I would be really angry to be represented by that kind of and 800 people watching this. It's not about the music. And I have to accept that. But I want to believe that some people love quality and respect quality. But the problem is that for me, about the people that I see, they have a problem with the app. They love music, but they have a problem with the app, I think, because the one who belong to the niche, they don't want to go and listen to the music on the app. I think this is the problem about the kind of people we are, loving the vinyls, loving the stuff. They have enough about Facebook, Instagram, and they think that Twitch is on the same level. And sometimes I bring some people, they say, oh, I didn't think it was like that. I think that was another social network and I like it. That's why I play on the morning. I said, I want them to have like a ritual. You wake up on a Sunday morning, you put Freddy Jay. I thought that Twitch would become way bigger. I thought that people would realize that this is a space of freedom, especially for the music lovers in the real life. What you're doing, Criztoz, in my life, in my environment, I don't see it. I'm at school on Twitch. I have there's you, the community, for example, of vinyl 45s. I found this incredible. I really don't understand why there's not more French people or people coming here because there's a lot of people now. Vinyl is on top, 45 is on top. Everybody is playing. They're inviting DJ Coco. They invited. The numbers are not there because this is the mood right now. Everybody want to have some 45s, and the fact that you bringing all that quality music, eclectic, making all these shows. Sometimes I really don't get it. I think there is something that my mind can't get because I really don't understand.
What keeps you going then? Because obviously you've got quite a regular schedule now and you're streaming maybe a lot more now than you were before. Is that to try and get more people in, or is that just because you enjoy it?
Well, the first thing I enjoy it. I love sharing and the pleasure that I have watching guys like you discovering records. You are responsible of my bank account now, of my problems with my banks. You, Sam Twix, and a few guys, and all this community, Funk M, all these guys. And this is beautiful because I have that feeling that, oh, this record is dope. I need to buy it. I realize there's no competition with guys like you. I don't know how you're doing. You never
Yeah,
play twice the same record. This is incredible. But I
I
love it.
do, but
You know, I love it.
I do
But
something. I've got a lot of
also,
records, as you can see, like you.
no, but I know. But you know what I'm talking about. I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it's great to realize that there's some 45s that have been released that I've never heard about, that I've never seen. And it gives me hope because I'm still searching. It's like I was 15 before. Like I told you when I was going to the record shop, digging the records. Now I'm just going on Twitch
Yeah.
and have my, I'm learning and say, oh, this record is out. A little community. DJ Yamsha is part of it. I have a friend playing 45s called DJ Suspect. I wish you would come and stream it. It's not streaming it, I don't have the time. And sometimes I don't want to spend money, so I don't go on Twitch. I know if I go on your page, if I go on Subject's page, if I go on Slovaski's page or Folk M or whatever, I'm going to hear some stuff that I want to buy. So I
Yeah.
say, I don't want to buy this month. But this is beautiful.
Yeah. Obviously, let's talk about the community. Each channel, I think, has their own community, and then they're part of a wider community. So obviously, I have my community, and then that's part of 45's community, part of Vinyl community. How have you found your community, your Freddy J community?
So I think this is the legacy of what I was doing during the pandemic. Because, during the pandemic, I did not do it for me. The first show that I made it for me, you know. But I'm lucky I'm living in a house. But all the message that we got, some people were, they didn't live the pandemic in a good way. I have a friend of mine, is different. It's really different. I've lost some friends during the pandemic. Not close friends, but people that I knew, some DJs. I had some friends because, in Paris, most of my people living in the center, I'm living around Paris. I'm 20 minutes from Paris, But when you live in Paris, it's so expensive that most of the time, most of my friends, single friends, they were living in a small flat, in a small apartment, but they didn't care. They were living outside. They had a bar downstairs, and they used to meet their friends in the bar downstairs, in the restaurant. They were never living in the house. So during the pandemic, they had to stay in the house, but it was a small flat. So it was complicated. So it was cool for them. They said, you help us out. Every day at 7, we're ready because we're waiting for that moment. So I remember I had my arm, hurt. And I said, I got to do it for the people. We were doing it for the people because I thought that I was lucky. I thought as an artist, that was my goal to do this. This feeling of being useful was very important for me because I always thought that music was more than a hobby. I think this is mixing for the soul. You know what I'm saying? So I did my part. I think that was my part to do it. And I have the legacy of that. And that's how that community was built. This is the first thing. The second thing is that I think that I have a different, this is about a vibe. I try to make the smile on people and to create the link. I'm fighting against intolerance, talking about music because, I make some conferences here in some places because most of people think yo, me, this is house music. Me, this is folk music. Me, this is hip hop. They have like some musical ghettos. And my role is what I try to tell when I'm mixing. Everything is connected. No walls. Because everything, this is the story of music. This is the story of the samples. And if you realize that in music, you realize that in humanity. So I try to bring that vibe without talking about politics, but showing that this is absurd what's going on because the reality of things is different. So in unity, because we're connected. It's not about color, we're connected. We have more in common than things that divides us. It's like a metaphor. I make it with the music, And this is I'm a militant, but I don't do it with the words. You know what I'm saying? Music is my metaphor.
Yeah, I mean that totally makes sense, and I hadn't thought of it in that way, but it is a lot of what we're doing. It's the message of bringing people together, showing them that through music we're all connected, and it's finding like-minded people to hang out in the same place. And this is where we've been lucky to connect not just with the viewers and the community and moderators, but also with streamers and like doing things like I do, like Amsterdam this weekend, going and basically doing what we do on Twitch, but in a real life setting, and bringing people together, DJs and hopefully people. It's a great thing. Here's the question for you. Obviously, we're talking about 45s. I know why I love them. Why do you love 45s?
This is a very good question. I didn't love 45s first. Culture is a very special thing. I used to put a big respect on the name culture first. I'm talking about hip hop culture. And I'm starting to evolve and change my mind. You can understand why I'm saying that. Because I don't want walls in my head. I want to stay open-minded. And I realize that sometimes culture is like to be a little bit close-minded. So I didn't like, it's not only about the records, but you will understand what I'm saying. I didn't like 45s first because it was not part of my culture. I used to buy 45s because I love music. It's not about the media. I got CDs, I got tapes, I got anything. When I need some music, I'm an addict about music. But you know, sometimes when I was buying 45s, it was not easy to manipulate. And I love my scratching. I love to dance. I love to feel comfortable about mixing. But then, as I'm a DJ and I'm touring a lot, I used to bring my stuff. It was taking me hours to choose the records. I know that you know what I'm talking about. It's not about what you take, it's about what you live. So it was
Yeah.
always crazy. And when Serato arrived, it changed my life. And it was easier because you could go harder. It was not flipping. The needle was not flipping. And Serato get better and better. I could have all my music in my computer. I could play my own music, my own edits, my own remixes in double. So I was making a lot of economy. I started to see guys. The first slap I had in my face was the Chemist show with DJ Shadow. They made a 45 show. I said, what the heck? What? Because I think I'm a good DJ and I want to evolve. So, and when I see these guys, I felt like I was shit. I said, man, I can't do this. How do they scratch like this on 45s? How did they build that show? And I really felt small. I felt so small. I'm a proud guy. And was oh Freddie, you're great DJ, you're great DJ. And I was thinking, I feel like an imposter. I thought, yeah, if I was great, I could do what they're doing. And I started to see Shadow, Chemist, Robert Smith, so many guys. And I say, man, I feel like I'm not really authentic and I need to get into this, but I was afraid because I wanted to first people were saying, man, you're playing on digital, but you have so many records behind you. We want to hear what you got. So I started to say, okay, I'm going to make one day, I'm going to play the vinyls. Man, I realized I couldn't mix anymore with the vinyls. With the 33s and 12 inches, I couldn't play anymore. I was trying to scratch and I felt so, I said, man, I can't accept that. I've been a great DJ on vinyls. I can't play vinyls anymore. So I started to practice again. And I said, no, I want to be a real DJ. I don't have no limit. This is my instrument. This is what I am. This is the best moment. When I'm sick, I'm playing. I'm not sick anymore. I have to learn my 45s. I had a few 45s. So, and when I saw DJ Coco, I said, man, I love that art. I need to be part of that. I felt that. And the thing is that so many impostures right now, you go somewhere, everybody's a DJ. Everybody's a DJ. So I said, me, I want to be a real DJ. I don't want to be a part of all these guys pretending they're DJs. And I think that 45s, if you don't get it, it's over. And I love when I heard a DJ, even he's not a big technician, he has the record. I know he's been searching for it. I have to respect the guy. And this respect that I have for the selector, I want the people to have the same respect for me. It's not only about playing a song. When you play a 45, it's the time you have to search for it. You don't get it in any. And I respect that. It's like you're a gold digger. The work is about, it can be 10 years, 15 years, 3 months. When you have it, to me, I respect that. Man, I'm going to look at you like you're God. You have that record, man. Oh, and ambience. I'm a child again with the 45. This is the point. And technically, this is a difficulty. Now, I think I'm pretty good. I'm going to make a show. I'm going to tour with the 45 show right now. I'm preparing Nick right now. I'm going to release something to have an actuality to make that show because I want to put respect on the name DJs. So many people say they are DJs. To me, they are not DJs. And playing 45s to me is the best way to put some respect in that name.
Yeah, that sounds great. I'm going to look forward to that show. Is that a show you're going to tour, or is that a show you're going to be doing for a stream?
No. I want to tour with that show because for two reasons. I'm a DJ from clubs. In France, the music in the clubs is getting worse and worse and worse. I consider myself as an artist. I don't want to play music that I don't like. And I love music too much. And I think that playing 45 take me to different places. So I already got the name. It's going to be called Class of 45s. I have a friend of mine working on the picture, on the graphic, on the artistry. And I explain who I am because I have a little pedigree here, a little reputation. And why I'm doing that show, we're going to the mix to the purest form of the mix. No computers, two turntables, a mixer, and playing 45s. You can't cheat with the 45. You can't play compilations. You have it or you don't have it. And sometimes you can fail. I like the fragility of the concept, and I want to talk to people loving the music. So I will try to make some like open for groups, not playing discotheques anymore, playing clubs like an artist, you know. And I want to release, I need to release my music, so I'm going to release it in 45 too.
Yes, because you play a lot of your edits on the show, and I know you talk. You're just waiting for the right time, or the right label, or the right opportunity to sort of get some of this music out on 45, because that's going to be great, isn't it? Have a 45 with your music.
The music that I'm gonna release first is not edits. It's gonna be my own music, my composition, and later I'm gonna release my edits. But the thing is that you're always afraid because I don't really have 45 networks here. My only networks about people liking or loving 45s is you guys. You know, these people that we saw all the time on Twitch. But me personally, the only people who cares about my 45s is my brother DJ Suspect. Is the only guy I know who have that connection with me. And now I've been connected with DJ Yamsha via Twitch. The thing is that if I release some records, I don't know who's going to buy them. So now I know, you know, and it's about money because I've been releasing some stuff and it's stayed at home. So it's very special when you put some money in and you can sell them. So now I have a little bit connections via you and all these guys on Twitch. If I release something, I got a way to promote it.
Fantastic. So we'll sort of bring it to an end. I'm sure we'll do a part 2. When you're ready to do your show, let me know, and then we'll do maybe a pre-interview or an after interview or something like that. Once you've got some footage and stuff we can show. But in the meantime, would
No
you
problem.
would you recommend people getting into 45s? Has it changed your sort of journey and your trajectory?
So every day when I meet people, most of my friends love music. I think the connection is made through music. I don't think I could be friends with some people who like some music that I don't like, but I'm open-minded. So a lot of my friends, they don't listen to music with the good material, connected speakers with no stereo. And I say, man, why don't you buy your real stuff? You love music. So this is the first step. So most of the people around me, they bought some vinyl turntables because of me. I think this is the first step. The problem with the 45s, for me, it's a DJ thing. It's a thing like it's a geek thing. That's what's going on right now. Most of my friends are buying vinyls again, you know, and they're really happy with it. But they don't really understand my love for the 45s because they think, and they're pretty right, it's a little bit too expensive for only one track. 45s are more expensive than 12 inches, you
Yeah.
know? So to me, I won't recommend, I won't recommend it. I just explain because they don't understand why 45s. And I explain them that the 45s, to me, there's some poetry in it. You have that track, it's fragile. If you don't have it, you can play it and you bring that record. It's like you invest yourself in the record. If you want it, you buy it. And when I started again, I know myself. I can do the things in the middle. It's nothing or too much. So, but when I started, I said I don't want to put too much money in one record. I think like 25 euros in 145 to me is the maximum.
Yeah.
It's already too late. You know, it's already too late. Now I realize that I've seen some records that my maximum for 45, I think it's 60 euros for 145.
Mm.
And but I can't share that with somebody. So man, you're crazy. Man, you're crazy. Why 60 euros? You have only one track, perhaps two. But the thing is that I know why I'm doing this, and this is why I need to make my show because I've been spending so. I realized that last year I spent 10,000 euros on 45,
That's a lot of money.
and
But
I'm not that
it's
rich.
easily done. It is easily done though. If you've got the ability,
So
it's easy to spend that money on 45s.
definitely, I got to put some sense in that. Can be cool to show the people, all these people who want to be DJs, to tell you this is the truth. You can play on computers, you can play on controllers, but if you want to be on top of your craft, play vinyls. And a lot of people around me, youngsters, have been inspired by me. If I can inspire them, and you know what I like with the 45s and what I'm talking about? It's about giving the money to the people who made the records directly. Because a lot of people don't have the record companies, they just do it. And I think that's great to buy on Bandcamp. I love it,
Mm.
you know? And that's what I'm talking to the people. You can give the money to the man who made the music directly. No Sony, no Universal. And a lot of people, they want to be part of this.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Yeah. Again, it's community. It's coming back to community and helping each other and helping each other sort of grow and support each other. And like you say, paying for a download is not the same as sort of buying a record. But Freddie, it's been amazing. I'm going to set the raid. We'll definitely do a part 2.
Let me take the time for the people, and I will say it in French too. I don't know who's watching right now. I know it's not easy because it's English and it's not easy for the French people to thank you for what you're doing because it's a lot of investments. You put the light on other people, and this is what the world needs right now. You know what I'm saying? So people don't realize, and I don't know how you do all this time, but I want to thank you, man. And I want to thank all these people, Marky Fresh, and all these guys, because it's not only about the music, it's about connecting each other. We're not alone, because we're not alone anymore. You know what I'm saying? So we
Yeah.
need people like you to do this, to put the light on all these people, you know, because it's more than music. It's about being connected, being different and connected and being part of a big family. So I want to tell the people, je vais dire aux gens, que c'est hyper important. Merci Criztoz de faire que tu puisses mettre la lumière, even interviewing me, put the light and make this world better, de faire ce monde mieux. La musique est un prétexte. Music is an alibi. You know what I'm saying? We're talking about music. We could be talking about food, but the fact is, everything who can make us connected to each other as different people is like an opposition to the bigotry, to racism, to close-minded people, you know, to think that one is better than the other. We all bring something different together and we're stronger together. And we need people like you. So I want to thank you because I know that time is precious. And you take the time to do it with humility and you do it great. Everything is great. The logos, the visuals. This is beautiful, bro. That's why I love Twitch, man. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That means that means a lot. That really does mean a lot. Thank you, Freddy Jay. If you hang on there, we'll have a quick chat afterwards.
Thank you for having me.